Good morning, day of resurrection. So, I want to talk about free thinking because I made this post that said free thinking is a step to self mastery, and I want to explain what I mean by that. So, to think for oneself means to have the courage and the willingness and the devotion to untangling one's conditioned reality and all responses that are learned responses from other people, from our culture, from wherever we got it from. And it's very common to see people responding in ways that they see other people responding for sort of social cue or an automatic unconscious response. And when we start to actually unravel that and we start to think for ourselves and not just repeat things that we heard or things that we've been told, then something in life starts to become very interesting. And we realize that this ability and this birthright to think for oneself and one's own sovereign nature is not harnessed and cultivated very readily in this culture. And when we take on that endeavor to actually think for ourselves and utilize that as a spiritual practice of presence, life becomes very beautiful. And we start to see things that other people maybe cannot see or they've just chosen to turn away from. And my experience of this is sort of this weaving through life, weaving through the matrix. I call it the matrix because it's a fabricated reality. When I'm driving around in a car and I'm seeing strings of power lines, it feels very unreal for me because most of the time I'm not exposed to that. So I've sensitized myself in such a way that these things are not just normal to me, and I really honor that, and I'm able to actualize things about my awareness that I wouldn't be able to if I was still living within the systemized matrix and the fabricated reality, and I'm able to cultivate that ability to think freely more readily. And in that, the deeper piece that I really want to get to in this is karma. I want to sort of dissect karma and dig it up and turn it over, because I think it's become sort of a casual word, but not something that most people really understand how karma works in the realms of cause and effect. And so when I move about the world, I'm noticing the ways that patterns intersect and relate with each other, and how when we engage with a person, we have an experience, and each of us are having an experience of whatever we need to see for our own soul's evolution. So I've got my storyline going on, they've got their storyline going on, and each person has spoken and unspoken agreements around the engagement. And when our soul is called to learn something, it's going to attract the perfect person to learn that with. And it usually means that they have complementary traumas to what we do. And so, whatever we may be seeking and calling forth and desiring in this existence wants to find resolution. And it will magnetize that resolution by shining light on the shadows and creating what may be perceived as a difficult situation in the moment. But the longevity of the resolution and the homeostasis of harmony has to kick up dust before it can settle. And it can be very intricate. Some ways that I see it is that if I'm being called to learn something within myself and fortify a piece of my own being, that I might actually be attracted to a situation where I can model that part of myself. And maybe then, that person is also getting that healing, and it's a mutual experience, and it can happen in either direction. And the way that that might look is if I'm having the experience of someone being aggressive with me, and then everything is a reflection, and so then there's a projection. Usually two people are having the same exact experience of each other. And there's that projection, there's that reflection, we're having the same experience, but our stories are different. And in the divine moment that one or both people can come into responsibility for their part, there can be magic there. If there's not quite that conscious awareness yet, then there's a beautiful opportunity for that to happen, and for each person to get that mutual healing. It doesn't matter where it begins. As soon as one of the people wake up to, okay, how do I want to approach this differently? How have I been relating to myself and treating people closest to me? What is this situation reflecting to me in my life that it may be a pattern? And how can I respond differently? Oh wow, okay, I don't feel like I'm being aggressive, but I feel like that person is being aggressive, but wait, that person is me, so how am I projecting aggression out into the external world to receive this reflection, to harmonize something that is not resolved within myself or within this person? So we're coming together to have an unresolved moment to find resolution, which actually creates a quantum healing field of whatever that pattern is of energy, whatever that story is. It can be healed in that present moment by shifting that pattern, and it heals the past, and then it heals the future too, because then there's no need to repeat that experience. So when we create a situation, for example, in the realms of how is that karmic, then if we say no to that harmony and to that resolution, we are creating karma with that particular energy pattern or what that particular emotion was attempting to resolve. And not necessarily that we're creating karma tied with a certain soul. That's more of an agreement that we could make. But more so that we're creating karma with the particular pattern of energy that had never resulted in that resolution, which would cease the pattern's existence. So if we say, no, I don't want to meet this, I don't want to put my armor down, I don't want to have compassion for myself or for this other person, or maybe I don't know how, I don't know how to reach a state of forgiveness, then we inevitably put ourselves in a situation where we're going to attract the same story, similar but different details, maybe different faces, but it's the same story because we didn't thoroughly get that resolution. So there's a string of karma, and the universe is tracking all of these things, and we don't even have to be fully conscious of it, is the thing, for it to come back to us. There's endless opportunities for us to find this resolution within ourselves and this harmony, and the more that we devote to that and show up with willingness to be doing that, the less difficult it has to be. We don't have to be suffering and creating these dire situations or grand ruptures of conflict to actually get the lesson and to actually listen enough to receive what information is attempting to be transmitted to us by the consciousness of the universe, the divine source, and ultimately our higher self, our soul. We came here, to whatever our agreements are in our personal stories, we came here to resolve those things and to come into our highest versions of self, to pursue this path of self-mastery. And to tie it back into the very beginning of this conversation, free thinking. And so it requires a level of conscious awareness and free thinking to be able to catch oneself in the moment and say, oh, okay, yep, I know this one is super familiar. I'm going to hold myself here. I don't need to rehash it into the external world. I don't need to extend myself. Don't need to defend myself. I don't need to play out that so familiar thing. And I can really go deeply inward and sit with myself in silence, sit in nature, close my eyes and really tune into my body and discover, okay, what is this really about? And then I start to unravel all that conditioned reality. I start to think for myself. I start to see things even before they happen. I can start to see these strings of events. Okay, I know where this is going to lead to if I make this decision or that decision. So I just wanted to tie in that the karmic ways, and I can go deeper into karma. There's many facets, but the ways that karma and cause and effect relate to self-mastery and how we can bridge those things.